Hey, John Mayfield with Global Real Estate School. Thank you so much for joining. I'm so excited for my podcast interview today. It's with a former student, Ali Bond, who is from Hawaii, Hawaii real estate agent. And Ali has written a book here called The God Layer: Faith Lessons in Real Estate. And I'm telling you what, this is an amazing book that you have to get. And we're going to talk about this with Ali. And first of all, I want to say thank you, Ali, for being on the broadcast today.
Thank you. It's an honor and pleasure, John.
Yeah. So we met. I did a podcast interview a week or so ago with one of my students. Her name was Tez. And Tez
Yep.
and Ali were actually both in the same class. And I tell you what, that group of students, they were so good. And I learned so much from them as an instructor. They brought so much to the course. And during the course, Ollie said she had written a book. And I said, I gotta buy that book. And we'll talk about the book. It's a devotional book that you can read to be encouraged, and very transparent up front. She's not making any money off this book. All proceeds go to, I'll let you tell the audience, Ollie.
Yes, two nonprofit ministries here on Oahu in Hawaii. One is called the Makaha Community Center, and they are on the west side of Oahu, just reaching out to everyone over that community there. And then there's a homeless ministry all over the island called River of Life.
Okay, great. Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got into real estate? What kind of made you take that step to say, I think I want to be a real estate professional?
Well, I had different careers up until I was 40. And when I turned 40, it was kind of like that proverbial midlife crisis. I was an executive at a jewelry company here in Hawaii, and wonderful job, but I didn't really feel fulfilled, and that my job and my work had a lot of meaning. So I actually gave notice. I ended up going to Japan during the tsunami, the earthquake and tsunami in 2011, and did some mission volunteer work, relief work. And I really, really found out that doing a job that is helping other people is where you find the meaning and fulfillment. So when I came back to Hawaii to find a new career, several people said, I think you would be great in real estate. You have the sales background, you have the leadership background. I was also working for Hilton Hotels in a past life and did a lot of analysis. So I found in real estate that I also have to have analytical skills. So it's
Right.
been actually, God, I really just thank God for leading me to real estate about 12 years ago. And everybody was right. It was the right job for me and very fulfilling.
Very cool. I love that. So, one of the things that I thought was so interesting about your book is you say read it, and you don't have to read it like in order. Just you say jump around and read wherever. I'm kind of one of those people where, well, I guess I better start at the beginning. But the very first journal entry you have, I guess I call them journal entries, but they're really experiences that you've had throughout your career in real estate, and how you relate those back to a biblical principle, and how this relates to you with your faith. But the very first journal the very first, I shouldn't say journal, I should say
Well,
um,
chapter or
chapter,
faith.
yeah, devotional. Because I kind of use it as a devotional because it makes you think and reflect. And was the statement from Abe Lee. And Abe, for those watching, has a real estate school in Hawaii. I run an online real estate school in Hawaii, but he like knows so much more than I do, and lots of wisdom, and a great guy. I've never met him, but I've just heard nothing but the utmost praise for him and his school. And Abe told you all I love how you said before he ever taught us anything about real estate, he said it's our reputation that's more important.
That's
And I
right.
thought, wow, I wish I had said that or had that to tell students, because really in this business it is about our reputation. So I don't know, you want to comment about that or mention that a little bit?
Yeah, Abe. So also being here in Hawaii, it's a small community, it's a small island. And he tied that, this classroom of would-be realtors saying, everything you do on this island, it's going to get around. And I think regardless the size of your market, it is true. It's a small community of agents, let's say, or escrow officers and loan officers. And so as we go about our career in real estate, the way we treat people, the way we conduct our business, if it's good, we're going to have a good
Mhm.
reputation and people are going to want to work with us. If it's bad, the opposite. And in fact, we do hear rumors about, oh, this agent, that agent. And we don't even know if it's true, right? If we haven't ever worked with them or met them. But our reputation precedes us and can affect how people treat us when we do come face to face in a transaction.
That's so true. And just looking back in my real estate career, and I'm from a small community as well, but I saw so many people come into the business who didn't value what their reputation meant to the community and to their clients and customers. And they didn't last long. I mean, unfortunately, that is such a pivotal part of your business. I mean, we're taking care of one of the most expensive, valuable assets people have. And if they can't trust us, then boy, you can't get that back. And so I just love that. Well, what gave you the idea about the book, and kind of, walk us through that whole process and formatting it and coming up with the idea,
Yeah,
because each chapter you kind of take us through a scripture verse, and then just it's really laid out very nice. So I'd love to hear more about that.
sure. I have to give all credit to God. I mean, literally, it was this divine inspiration. Hey, I have never seen a devotional written for Christian realtors. And that is the primary audience, but I've had many friends who aren't particularly of any faith say that there's still a lot of value for any realtor or loan officer or anybody in the industry. And I had a vision of 60 chapters, very short, 3 to 4 pages, and 12 chapters in 5 sections. I mean, this was literally all, it was just divine download. So the first 12 chapters is called Seasons in Your Career. So talking about, finding the right company to join, or when you want to change companies, leaving a company, when you might feel like you should leave the business. So things, just milestones in your career. The second 12 chapters deal with seasons in your schedule and budget. So as commissioned realtors, we are always thinking about our pipeline and getting enough business, contacts, that kind of thing. So there's chapters about
Yeah, so
whether
I'd
you
love
should
to
work on
jump in there real quick, not to interrupt you, but
your.
so when you first said, I think I'm going to do one about seasons in our life, or did you immediately like think of a story or a situation that it's like, oh, I got to write about that, or did that just kind of flow into the concept of the book?
Well, it was, I came up with this, I said, I think I'm going to do 60 chapters. I thought that was
Right.
manageable. Took me a year and a half, but
Yeah,
I
that's
got it
okay.
written. And I just started writing subjects, like topics, like when you're on a team, when you're starting at a new company, when you're needing a mentor. And so I just started writing all these possible topics. And that became, and then I kind of organize them into different categories.
Yeah, I love that. So, and the first category you were talking about, maybe changing companies or starting a team, that is a big thing. And I know a lot of new agents may be watching who are thinking, well, gosh, I think I'm going to work for this broker and I'll be there for the rest of my life. And many agents do that. They stay with the same company. But sometimes you know, sometimes people go to an organization and they don't feel, or let me shouldn't say they don't feel, they realize the same values are not in place with that team or organization that they have in their lives. Um, I, my company was kind of a family. Uh, we did a lot of lunches where we all brought food. We prayed before we had our food. We just had some strong faith-based values as an organization. And sometimes I got it. People just didn't fit into that. And I wasn't going to make anybody, you know, read the Bible or do this or pray or do anything. We didn't like shove it down anybody's throat, but yet you've got to go to an organization where you feel comfortable.
Sure.
And that's not saying that there's anything wrong with a group that likes to, have different types of parties or do different types of things. Please don't think I'm being judgmental, or it's just that go
Well,
with where
yeah,
you feel the most
so
comfortable.
there's so many companies with different business structures, different social
Exactly.
brings, big, small, very corporate, very personal. And so, each agent needs to find their niche. And sometimes it's
Exactly.
not be the very first company that you chose.
We had a gentleman in our area, and he may be watching this at some point. Great guy, but he had a couple of dogs running around in his office. He always wore jeans. It was just a totally different laid back. Now, I always wore a suit and tie, and I mean, I kind of got to where I didn't wear a tie every day, but my dress code was different than his. I could
Sure.
have never worked in his office because it just wouldn't have fit me. He could have never worked in my office, or it wouldn't have been his thing. So yeah, that's kind of what we're talking about. So what advice from the book regarding, okay, I got to start looking for another office. Well, walk us through one of your topics on that you.
Yeah. So in the first section, there's a chapter called Should You Leave Your Company or Team? And I kind of so there's some reflection questions in each chapter where, if you're doing this as a devotional, you can kind of either journal or just think through, what is important to you. So the reflect questions, for example, are how has my current company or team been good to me? How do they continue to be a good fit for me? And what advantages and benefits would I stand to lose if I leave them? So starting now first to look at the positives of your current situation. And then the next section in this chapter is, okay, so what's not going well with this current company or team? What have I tried? What could I try now to improve the situation from my side? Is there anyone I can have a heart-to-heart talk with to try to troubleshoot? So it then moves you into a meditation or a reflection of, what's working, what's not working? Is there anything I can do to help that situation? And then the last reflection question of this chapter is, if I change companies, how will my clients and business be affected for better or worse? What benefits will I gain as an agent? How do I think God views my desire to change companies? And so again, it's written maybe primarily for a Christian agent, but I feel like these reflection questions could be applicable to anybody.
Yeah, I love that. That's excellent. And that kind of segues me to something you wrote about. that I really have followed what you exactly wrote about in the book over on page 105 when you say, when you might advise a seller not to sell, do the right thing. And I love the scripture there, 1 Corinthians 10:24. Don't be concerned for your own good, but for the good of others. And you know what's interesting about that is I have I've been in that situation numerous times. And it seemed like, Ollie, every time I was in that situation, I needed to make that commission check. You know, financially,
Right.
it wasn't a good time for me. And yet I had to stop and say, what's best for my client, not for John
Yes.
Mayfield. And so I'd love for you to talk about that. And then I'm going to add something else to that. But you want to add anything about when you wrote that or the purpose for that?
Yeah, well, the whole concept of the book, the title is The God Layer. And what that means is as we go about our real estate work on this earth, there's a God layer, there's an added extra layer of meaning and purpose for our work. And, you know, this is true for, I think, any profession. But I think for realtors, we are walking people through life milestones, right? So, marriage, divorce, kids, empty nest. And there's oftentimes where, you know, a seller thinks that selling is the only option. But we, of course, can open up other possible options and really talk through their situation, maybe connect them with a loan officer for like a refinance situation or cash out, and just open up their eyes to see if there's possibly any other option. Because we know it costs to sell, right? So sometimes when I encounter a first time seller, when they were first time buying, nobody told them that, you know, it costs a lot of money to sell. The seller bears a lot of the costs. So when we do a net proceeds sheet for a seller and maybe they're not going to make any profit, we are sometimes, we should try to at least, first of all, honestly show them the numbers and figure out if they still want to sell. So I think that transparency and that care for the seller's situation should always be guiding us.
Yeah.
And the God layer is also like, is there something else? Maybe God put me with this client to help them through this situation.
Right. Yeah. You're so true with that. I remember getting a call. First of all, I remembered going to a seminar, and the gentleman said, this was back in the day when you were working floor duty and, you know, before cell phones and all of that. And so he said, if you ever get a call and somebody says, well, we'll drive by and get back in touch with you. He said, you know, here's a good script for that. Just say, hey, I've never looked at that house, or I'd love to go out and look at that house too. Maybe I could just meet one. If you're going to drive by, I'll just meet you out there. Tell me what time and we'll take a look at it. So I got this call, and these people said, well, we'll drive by and we'll get back in touch with you. And I honestly had never looked at this house. Our company had just had it listed. And I said, hey, we just listed that. I've not had a chance to see it. I'd love to meet you out there. We'll just take a look at it together. And they said, okay, when would you want to meet? And so I said, well, we'll go right out now. So I thought, well, gosh, that script worked, you know. And anyway, I met them out there. They bought that house. We became very good friends. And that's one of those times, Ollie, when I tell students when I'm teaching live classes or CE about, you know, our fiduciary obligations to our clients and how we become close to them. And I remember the three of us just crying at their kitchen table over something they were sharing with me that had happened in their life. And it was so moving to me. And we became good friends, and he eventually died. And it was, I look back now and I think, why did God put me in their life like that? And then I think
Mhm.
about that script that the guy told me to use that I used. I would have never met them if I just said, okay, we'll go drive by and call me if you want to look at it. But I became so
Yeah.
there. It was Jim and Barb. I still remember their name, and we became such good friends. And sold them when they sold that house. They bought another one from me, and then he passed away, and she moved out of the area. But I'll always remember that. And so when you say that God layer, that there's all these things happening, and sometimes we don't realize that that there is going to be an impact from what we're doing with these people that we work with. And by the way, if you like that, and that's why you should get into real estate if you're watching this on My Global Real Estate School,
Right.
because it's more
I
than just looking at houses.
Yes, and what you said earlier about with reputation, those agents who don't ever care about that, and they're just kind of in it to make the money, they don't last. And that's because our business is all about connecting with our clients and the relationship, and caring for them,
Mhm.
and advising a seller, maybe you shouldn't sell. Like, that's counter to what we want to do,
Yeah.
right? We want to sell a house,
But
but
sometimes the market may not be in their best
that's right.
interest. And
That's right.
especially in Hawaii, you probably see those times. Or, one thing which I didn't recognize or realize about Hawaii until I started teaching there a lot for the CRB is that you have a huge military in and out influx of people. Sometimes those folks may want to purchase, but it might not always be the right opportunity.
That's 100% correct. And they're only here usually for 3 years. So depending on what part of the cycle we're at, if they buy at the top and then it's going down by the time they're ready to sell, yeah, they're underwater, especially if they're on a VA and they roll up all their closing costs, they're going to
Right.
be underwater. So um, that's absolutely that hard, honest talk that we have to give them, and then try to present options like, do you see yourself ever coming back to Hawaii someday? Why don't you hold on to it and rent it out? You know, and connect them with a property manager to just explore that option.
Right.
I think that's duty to really care for the client and give them every option.
Very cool. Well, um, I want our viewers and listeners to know you have to check out the book, The God Layer: Faith Lessons in Real Estate by Alec Bond. Um, and it's for the Good Publishing. We'll put the website in everywhere they can get that in the be a
Sure.
great
Yeah.
devotional book. I want you to tell us what's it like selling real estate in Hawaii. So you can get your Hawaii real estate license. You could go to my school to get the certification to take the exam, both a broker and salesperson. But tell our viewers who maybe somebody's like, I think I want to go to Hawaii. I've actually had students who were on the mainland that went through my school because they were moving to Hawaii. But walk
Um,
us through the day in the life of a Hawaii real estate agent.
well, you can't beat the scenery here.
Right.
So when you go and look at properties, sometimes it's just amazing, wow, views, and that's always fun. Uh, it is quite a culture, not shock, but there's a different culture here. I'm originally from Portland, Oregon, and I came to school here. So I've lived here about 25 years total. And it probably took me 20 years to really understand that I'm not ever going to fit in here. Like, from a true local who has been born and raised here with generations here, there is a little bit of a divide between locals and people who come in. But I think what helps any newcomer to Hawaii is to adopt that spirit of aloha, to be open and be a sponge and ask questions about the local culture, and just take a humble stance that you're not from here, but you love this place and you want to do well here. So how can I, what can you teach me so that I can do better, as I relate to the people of Hawaii? There are a lot of, as you said, military in and out. That's a big part of the economy here. There's a lot of second home buyers.
Right.
So this is obviously such a great environment to have a home. So we do have a lot of higher end, in market. And then, second home could be just a one bedroom condo. So we see all kinds of buyers and sellers from all different countries. So it's definitely a, what do you call, not melting pot, they call it a salad bowl, right? So yeah, but the aloha spirit, you just can't find that anywhere else.
Well, I know just teaching in Hawaii and for the CRB and Hawaii Realtors, the agents are so wonderful to work with. And the loan officers there, whenever I teach a class there, they like go all out to support and sponsor and provide food and education, as far as, and there may be people watching here today that sometimes it is a good investment to maybe consider buying a second property in someplace like Hawaii. It's not really, from Missouri, I think it takes me about 6 hours when I go to Hawaii, but beautiful place, and I always enjoy going there. So very nice. Well, Holly, it's been wonderful having you on here again. Her book is called The God Layer: Faith Lessons in Real Estate. And just, I know she put a lot of prayer and thought into the book, and I've just thoroughly enjoyed reading it, especially early in the morning when I'm just having my quiet time. One of the things I've tried to do the last couple of years, Holly, is I used to get up and check my email and kind of do things, and now I don't really look at my email for probably an hour.
Good.
I have a it's called the Daily Bread, I think it's called, that I listen to first, and then I have another little podcast from Unity that I listen to because they always have some interesting comments. I just kind of had found it and I enjoy it. And then listen to the daily, my Bible reading. But it's always good when you can have a book like this just to get your mind thinking and going in the right direction. And so now this week I started journaling because I know I need to journal more. And so that's helping me as well. But thanks for the book and for your time, and hope everyone will go out and purchase it.
Thank you so much, John. The book is like realtor to realtor, agent to agent. It's just, I wanted it to be an encouragement. I'm not preaching.
No,
I'm still learning as a realtor as well. So it's not so much as like a guidebook, but it's pure encouragement. And because only other agents know what we go through in this business.
Yeah. So it was very cool. On my last class I taught, I was talking about your book, and you actually knew the broker. And I think he bought a copy for everybody in his office. But you're right. You're not preaching at people. You're just trying to give us a perspective for different situations that we encounter each and every day. And how will we handle that situation? Whether you're leaving a company, whether you're advising a client, or just a situation that pops up in your own life. And sometimes we do need to think about those in advance. I'm always amazed, and I tell this all the time, because probably for like 20 years, and I don't say this to brag, but I have this daily Bible reading where it's a Old Testament, New Testament, Psalm, and Proverb. And I've gone through that since probably 1995 or so. But it's always amazing to me, Ollie, how a scripture verse from that day will come up in conversation as a real estate professional with a client, customer, or another agent that I'll be able to share with them a different
Yes.
perspective on how to handle that.
Yes. That's
So-
great. Yes.
Well, thank you again, and we'll have Ollie's contact information down below. Order the book, and you want to buy something in Hawaii or have someone else who's going that direction, she would be a great agent for a referral to send to. So thank
Thank
you
you,
all.
Don.
All right, thank you.
Been a pleasure and honor. Thank you.
Thanks.
Aloha.
Aloha.